Welcome to the Nightmare DF Draxus tanking guide. I will be occasionally pausing the video to explain fight mechanics. For this fight, I will be focusing on the main tanking portions. The off tank can stay as a tank spec or switch to a DPS spec to help kill each wave of the fight. Thus, the off tank's duties are minimal in this strategy. Also, I will be using cardinal directions. These are based on the minimap. Draxus will begin the fight with a conal AoE cast called Suppressive Fire. Point this away from the group. After this cast, Draxus will switch targets. Thus, you should taunt as soon as the cast ends. Draxus also holds his hand up in a fist before changing targets, so you can use that as a visual cue for when to taunt. Ideally though, Draxus' target of target should never change from you. After the cast is finished, Draxus will throw a grenade which gives a green debuff on a random raid member. This debuff will spread to others who are within melee range of the grenade's intended target. If this is an issue for your healers, when the cast is about to end, call out to your raid members to tell them that they should spread out so that Draxus' grenade only hits the intended target. You can also use the self-cleanse to get rid of this debuff like Force Shroud. However, I prefer to save Shroud to mitigate other mechanics of the fight. After Draxus throws out the grenade, Draxus will pull in a random member of the raid group. This is unavoidable. If you are main tanking him, it's no big deal since you are already close to Draxus and attacking him. When Draxus reaches about 88%, he will jump into the air and SWTORs will spawn. I like to use an AoE taunt right before Draxus leaves to ensure that he is still targeting me when he comes back later in the fight. You should take at least 2 SWTORs. When the SWTORs die, they will produce an AoE which gives anyone inside it a stacking debuff. This debuff makes it so that any damage taken from the SWTORs exploding is increased significantly. You can resist this damage from the explosion by using Force Shroud if you are a Sin, and Saber Reflect if you are a Jug. PTs sadly cannot resist it, so use strong cooldowns if you are taking 2 or more explosions. Another method for this phase is to have all the SWTORs on the tank while the DPS evenly AoE down the adds. The tricky part of this is that the SWTORs must all die during the duration of Force Shroud or Saber Reflect. Further, any melee DPS must run away before the SWTORs begin exploding, otherwise their death is pretty much guaranteed. If you want to do this method on a PT, use Translocate with a ranged member right before the SWTORs explode. Translocate will give the other raid member immunity for 6 seconds, provided that this person does not use any abilities during that time. Thus, you are safely away from the explosion while the person you traded places with is also safe. The only difficult part of doing this is that the SWTORs will start chasing you across the room as soon as you translocate away from them. Thus, if you use this ability while the SWTORs' health is too high, they will chase you down and most likely explode on you and potentially other raid members. Further, Translocate has a 1.5 second cast time, so you have to plan ahead so that the cast finishes before the explosions start. For the next wave, 2 SWTORs will spawn on the eastern staircase. Pick up these SWTORs and pull them away from your group members and their AoE attacks. Since your invincibility moves will still be on cooldown, you can either pop other cooldowns to eat the 2 explosions, or have another raid member taunt one of the SWTORs away so that you both receive only 1 stack of the debuff. Obviously, make sure your stacks from the previous wave have worn off before killing this wave's SWTORs. Draxus comes back. Again, make sure his conal is pointed away from the raid and that you taunt him after his Suppressive Fire's cast finishes. If necessary, don't forget to call out when your group members need to spread out for Draxus' green grenade debuff. Draxus will leave when he is around 58%. In the next wave, 2 SWTORs will spawn on the south side of the room. Pick them up and bring them to the north side of the room out of range of the group. The DPS will be busy killing dismantlers. When the dismantlers cast Strong Swipe, it will knock back whoever has aggro on them and give them a blue debuff. This debuff greatly increases damage received from that specific dismantler, so you should taunt off at least one of the dismantlers. If you receive a Strong Swipe and are on a Sin, you can either use Force Shroud to avoid the mechanic or stealth out. If you stealth out, the dismantlers will run to someone else and immediately cast Strong Swipe on that person, so be ready to taunt the dismantler back. If you are on a PT and receive Strong Swipe, I recommend not using hydraulics to avoid the knockback. Not being knocked back makes it so that the dismantlers can attack you a lot quicker as they do not have to run after you. If you are having someone taunt the dismantler off you, this gives the person a much smaller window to taunt, increasing your chances of dying. Once both dismantlers are dead, kill the SWTORs. Again, use Force Shroud, Saber Reflect, or Strong Cooldown when eating both explosions. Or have someone taunt off one of the SWTORs so that you both eat only one explosion. Draxus comes down again. Keep him pointed away from the raid, taunt him after he finishes his casts, and call out when he is about to throw his grenade. The DPS check here is tight, so the next wave may spawn while you still have Draxus. In that case, finish him off before tending to the next wave of adds. You can also tab target to Draxus and begin DPSing him before he actually comes back down, which helps with the DPS check. Do not use your AoE taunt during this wave if you plan on using my method for the next wave. Draxus leaves when he reaches about 28%. 2 dismantlers will spawn in the next wave. I let the healers each pick up 1 dismantler and they keep them in the middle of the room. While both dismantlers are casting Strong Swipe, I AoE taunt them and mark which one the DPS need to focus. Be sure to attack both dismantlers so that they do not swap back to the healers and one-shot them. If the dismantlers use Strong Swipe before they are both dead, you can use Force Shroud or Stealth if you are on a Sin, or have someone taunt the dismantler during the cast. Once both dismantlers are dead, you can help kill the remaining adds or get into position for the next wave's guardians. 2 guardians and 2 SWTORs will spawn. Ideally, you should hold 1 guardian and both SWTORs while the DPS focus on the other guardian. The guardians cast Slam and leave a giant purple conal on the ground. If you are in the conal, you will receive a lot of damage and will be knocked back. Thus, point the guardians away from the raid. You want to get into position before the guardians spawn because if you are moving around too much, the conal will appear to be facing away from the raid, while in actuality, it will be facing the raid. This will cause everyone to get knocked back and receive a lot of damage, upsetting the healers. When both guardians are dead, deal with the SWTORs. For the next wave, one of the DPS and I head south to kill the Despoiler. Despoilers will spam cast healing abilities until they are interrupted. Coordinate with your DPS buddy the interrupt order to prevent this from happening. Once the Despoiler is dead, help kill the Corruptors. Corruptors will be spam casting, which gives raid-wide dots. These dots hurt, so make sure that the Corruptors stay interrupted. If you interrupt a Corruptor, you will get a purple debuff. If you interrupt a Corruptor again while you have the debuff, you will be one-shot. Please note that PT and Jug Leaps do count as interrupts. Also, if a Corruptor is interrupted using a leap, they will just start casting again. So it is best to just run up to the Corruptor and interrupt them using your actual interrupt. What my group sometimes does is leave one Corruptor alive, lets this cast go off, heal through the dot, and once everyone is topped off, kill the Corruptor. This way, we go into the final phase with full health. For the final wave, Draxus, 2 Guardians, and a bunch of other adds will spawn. You can pick up one or both of the Guardians and keep them pointed away from the raid. However, keeping aggro on both of them is very difficult since you need to save your single taunt for Draxus. In the video, the DPS pick up the Guardians and keep them pointed away from the raid while I just focus on Draxus. Draxus will be immune to all damage until all of the adds are dead. So feel free to help DPS the adds as long as you continue to keep Draxus pointed away from the raid. And with that, Draxus is dead for the Empire.